It is October. It is Halloween season. So I've been doing my best to watch as many horror movies as I can.
Nice.
Recently. Nice. And yeah, let's talk horror movies. I saw 2 new ones this past week. Well, they're not new. They're actually extremely old.
Oh, okay. New to you.
New to me. I've never seen them before. I watched Children of the Corn.
Oh, I saw that when I was a kid. It scared the shit out of me.
I saw a trailer when I was a kid and it scared me.
Stephen King,
oh,
yeah.
I saw that when I was in 3rd grade, and I mean, I haven't seen it since, but that fucked me up.
It would scare a 3rd grader. It would.
Okay.
Because it's all about, like, no parents, all kids.
Yeah.
Like, evil bully kids.
Yeah, they're all blonde, too, right? I remember
no,
blonde
you're
kids.
thinking Village of the Damned.
Oh, wow.
Really? Children of the Corn didn't have all blonde kids? I got those mixed up too?
No.
We both made that.
I thought they were all blonde too.
That's Village of the Damned or Children of the Damned.
Yeah, something like that.
Children of the Corn is a Stephen King movie. It's it's like 30 years old, so I'm gonna divulge some of the plot points.
Sure.
I'm not gonna spoil too much of it, but basically it's about a small town in the Bible Belt, and one day all the children jump all the grown-ups and kill all of them.
Yeah.
And the kids take over the town. Everybody in the surrounding towns, they just kind of stop going there. But there's 2 people on a road trip who get lost. They end up driving through the town, and they're the only 2 grown-ups in the town. And they have to, deal with the Children of the Corn. South Park did a parody of Children of the Corn.
Yeah.
Maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and they actually pretty much sum up the whole movie in their episode.
They did that really well, actually.
Yeah.
Sum the whole.
Because I had seen the South Park episode before, and then when I was watching Children of Corn, I was like, this is like beat by beat, the South Park episode.
Funny.
It's funny. It's on Netflix if you want to check it out, Children of the Corn. It has 7 sequels. So I feel like
That's a lot.
any movie that has 7
Jesus
sequels,
Christ.
it's at least worth watching the first one. Because somebody liked it.
Yeah.
7 people liked it.
I remember
at
Derek
least.
telling me that about Rambo. And what an eye-opener that was. Man, Rambo is, I've always known it as I've only seen those movies 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And, famous series. The first movie is heartbreaking. And it was worth, I was only going to watch that. So I watched it and it was like, whoa, that was like a heartbreaking movie. That I feel like affected by that. Like, I was ready for just a dumb action movie. It was really not. It was really touching.
First Blood is very good.
And then I watched the sequels and went, oh, they thought it was about that too.
Yeah.
It's just go here and shoot a bunch of people. Oh, okay.
That's how I feel about all the Terminator movies now.
Terminator 2 is good, and the first one.
Yeah, the first 2 Terminators are really good, but the rest of them feel like they're made by people who...
They missed the point.
who didn't get it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Hey, what I thought you were going to say...
Probably got it right.
What I thought you were going to say, which was also big news this week, I thought you were going to bring up Die Hard.
Oh,
Die Hard
go ahead.
is the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Where here you have a successful, perfect action movie about a man who the excitement is that he is flawed and has no shoes on and is being hurt and is so close to being killed and is not doing very well. And then you fast forward that we have sequels now where he is walking from explosions without looking at them. And badass. Yeah, look, classic badass. No, it's not really what it was about. And so this week they announced they're making a prequel. Because as we all know, Bruce Willis is actually Batman. We need to know how it became.
I need to know...
John McClane, right?
I want to know why he wasn't allowed to see his kids.
Yeah.
What went wrong in the marriage? We'll find out.
So that's what Derek said when I brought up that it was going to be a prequel. So Derek sat there for a minute and went, it's his wife getting really mad.
Yeah.
Who's gonna play younger Bruce Willis?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
You know what the...
Yeah, that'd be great. Brilliant. That's brilliant.
You know what the problem with this is? This is treading into 24 territory where it's like, great story, but how many fucking days like this is this guy gonna have?
Yeah.
Just inherently, it makes less and less sense each time you do one of these.
Well, I think we talked about this, and one of the first reactions was just, why make a prequel? Why not just make a movie and call it something else? You don't need to make a prequel to Die Hard.
I don't know.
No, way easier to market this. But then you said, no, it's actually really complicated. Which it is. It is or it isn't?
Here's the thing. I did say that because I feel like the mentality is everybody already knows what Die Hard is, so we'll make another Die Hard movie and That way we don't have to spend time marketing it, getting people to know what it is, getting people interested. It's already built in, so they're more interested in seeing it. But I argue, when I hear Die Hard prequel, I'm less interested in seeing that than just a new movie that's an action movie.
Yeah.
I'll give a new movie a chance. I don't need a fifth Die Hard that takes place before the first one.
Yeah,
See, but you say that, and I agree with you, but we have discerning tastes, and I think most people just go, Die Hard!
There's a
and
lot
they
of
go see it.
dummies out there.
Yeah,
The
I guess
majority.
So. Well, here's the thing. Having an original movie might force you to have to make it good.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to make it good if it's just a prequel to something that has 4 sequels.
Speaking of not feeling any desire to actually make it good, when Jurassic World was coming out, the one thing that I did think was a good move on their part, and I thought it was funny when the director was talking about it, they asked him like, well, how come, where are the old characters? How come they're not in it? From the original Jurassic Park and stuff like that. And they actually said what you said, Derek. He was like, like the studio wanted us to, and I just told them like, how now this movie is not about dinosaurs. It's about the 3 unluckiest fucking people on planet Earth. To where
That's pretty funny.
I mean, imagine being
happening?
someone who can't get away from dinosaurs. Like your whole life. Oh God, am I in another goddamn island? It wasn't about
It's
that
the
anymore.
dinosaur curse.
At least they were able to recognize that.
Sure.
Dino
Cool.
Crisis.
Good movie talk. Wait, so hold on. I got more horror movies I saw. Getting back to
Yeah.
some horror movies.
Oh, yeah.
I rewatched another movie that has about 7 sequels. I rewatched the first Saw. Still, the first Saw was not the greatest movie in the world.
but good for. I mean, no budget movie.
Exactly. Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Good horror. It's good. I
think
recommend
the
it.
idea of that movie is good. There are a couple shots that are, I think, legitimately terrifying. Mm-hmm. The acting sucks.
Acting sucks.
Acting
I
sucks.
agree.
Dialogue sucks.
And that is exactly the same review I have now.
Yeah.
10 years later. It's just as good as it was when it first came out.
I thought my review of it. I agree with all of that. I thought it was a great chintzy movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like for a movie with kind of no oomph in it.
I'm
It was.
I'm
good.
really curious, Derek, about what you think because you just watched it.
Okay.
And after watching something else that's spawned like 7 sequels.
Didn't he just say? No, that's what he said. The review's the same, right? Isn't that what you just
Right,
said?
right. What I'm asking is that Children of the Corn, do you think it warrants 7 sequels? And Saw, do you think it warrants 7 sequels?
I think that's a loaded question because I feel it's easy to look at a film series that's been around for 15 or 30 years in the case of Children of the Corn and say lots of unnecessary sequels. They were all really bad. But it's different to be there in whatever year it comes out.
Yeah.
2004 for Saw or sometime in the early 80s for Children of the Corn. I think that those movies at the time they came out were very exciting and people were dying to get more. So it does warrant sequels. I also know how that turns into a money-making machine for the people who own those properties.
Oh, yeah.
And so they just kind of get worse and worse and worse. They almost purposely make people hate the series. Like they make these movies until people are so fucking sick of them. They refuse to make any more.
But I get the studio's standpoint because it costs $1 million to make it, and they'll make $300 million. So this
And they
keep
become
doing
a,
it.
they become a Halloween event to
Yeah,
go to
and just-
as opposed to
Oh,
find
you saw.
film.
Yeah.
And Saw especially. You're in like a room that has fucked up contraptions on you, and that's really it.
Now,
Like,
yeah, I will say this. I could give a shit about any Saw beyond the first one.
Yeah.
But that concept is... I'm not saying, yeah, they should make 8 sequels. But the concept does lend itself to, hey, you made all these traps. Oh, and you got them. Okay, well, what's the next?
Yeah.
The concept of kind of out-tricking the other person can keep going.
Yeah.
So I see why there are sequels. I don't know if there's
And-
going to be 7, but...
a lot of times too, when you think about it, I feel like both of those movies do deserve absolutely one sequel. No question.
Yeah, I completely agree.
They're
yeah.
both good enough to say, hey, make another one.
Yeah.
Do they warrant 7 or 8 sequels?
I don't know about that.
I don't think so. And I think it gets to a certain point where the sequels aren't even like referencing the original movie. They start making sequels to the sequels, and then they just start getting really bad.
Do you think that's what happened with Friday the 13th? Because I know that series is pretty close to you.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what happened?
I think that's what happens with all of them.
I think that especially with horror franchises, they will make them until people are so fucking sick of the franchise they can't stand to make any more. So they really just run them into the ground.
Especially monster movies, because people love the monster as the character, so they want to bring him back in another one and have another Jason, have another Pumpkinhead.
You know what's funny, though? I want to say something. I was just talking about this today. I watched Friday the 13th today, the first one. That's what I was watching before I came here.
Yeah.
What?
I watched it recently too, so.
Oh, the first one?
Yeah.
It's good.
I didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah, and you know, but you know what though? I didn't like it because I was ready for the sequels, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have the mask. It's just way different.
Here's the thing. Jason isn't in the first Friday the 13th, and
Yeah.
this is what I was telling the person I was watching it with. It's not really a Jason movie. It's
No.
more of like a Night Stalker movie. Like, who is the killer, and when are they going to get you? And it's kind of like this thriller mystery, like, you know, unsolved mysteries type horror. But I like it because it's kind of like pretty and peaceful and quiet. There's real pretty shots of the woods and the cabins, and it's just like kind of relaxing to watch. And then it gets real quiet, and you start getting nervous, and then somebody gets stabbed. And I think it's good. But I was gonna say I've seen all of the Jason movies, and I think the most underrated one of them all is Jason 10, where he goes to space.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, it was a space.
I think today it dawned on me. I was like,
And
they
Jason X.
sent Jason to space.
To get rid of him, right?
It's like, no, they didn't try to get rid of him. There's a whole
I've
story
seen
for
this.
why he ends up in space.
Whoa.
Okay, wow.
But
That
it's
takes
just
some
like
fucking imagination. to
they
get
took
in
an
there.
80s slasher movie and they made a sci-fi film out of it. That's fucking gonzo. And I kind of like, I think I hated it at the time, but all these years later, in the grand scope of
Retrospect helped.
they're still making Friday the 13th movies. They've even rebooted the
Yeah.
franchise, so now it's just back in the camp. So I just think like this movie is gone. This franchise is gone for all these years, and there was one time where they actually sent him to space. That's just badass. I don't
so
know.
funny.
Jason X, look it up. It's definitely like
remember-
it's super cheesy.
I remember a great scene where Jason's trying to get his machete, and one of the characters is just like, "Oh, well, he just wants his machete back. Give him his machete."
Yeah.
To which they hand him his machete, and he just starts hacking.
If I
people
remember
up.
correctly, the plot to Jason X,
It was really bad.
Spacin', as I like to call it.
Yeah.
Spacin'?
Spacin'.
Fuck yeah.
I think a team of I haven't seen this movie in 10 years, but if I remember
Been a
correctly,
long time.
a team of teenaged researchers
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
spaceship
Hell yeah.
come down to a post-apocalyptic wasteland Earth.
Oh.
And they go into this bunker and they find Jason Voorhees like cryogenically frozen inside. For whatever reason, they decide to take him onto their ship and resuscitate him. They either don't know who he is or they know who he is and he's like the legendary Jason Voorhees. I can't remember. But they take him up on the ship, he comes back to life, and then it essentially turns into Alien.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people on a spaceship,
That's
and
so
one by one, the monster is picking them off.
Exactly.
It is
It is
Alien.
Alien.
Yeah, it's,
Holy shit!
I mean, it's a fucking underrated Friday the 13th movie.
That's so funny.
They made Alien out of Jason.
Yeah, think
Wow.
about it. So, hey, my recommendation for the week, Jason X, Jason Goes to Space, hashtag Spacin'.
How do you spell Spacin'?
It's like Kevin Spacey,
Uh-huh.
but instead of a Y, it's an N.
Yeah.
Spacin'.
Basin.
Spacing.
Got it.
I've been watching.
and-
I've been trying to watch a lot of horror movies, but I've only gotten to one recently.
What?
Were you still on Jason?
Well, I had one more thing to say.
Yeah, sorry.
Who put up, is it the Universal Vault? Just put up a YouTube
Paramount?
channel? Or the Paramount Vault?
That's Paramount.
One major Hollywood studio put up a bunch of old movies on YouTube.
Damn, which one was it? It's
Full
killing me.
versions for free. I think it's either Paramount or...
I thought it was Paramount.
You'll find it. Look it up. But they own Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
Oh, I love it.
It's
Bill Moseley.
pretty good. I watched the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre recently, and I think that might be the best horror movie, or one of the best. And the sequels and, you know, the rest of the franchise kind of gets shit on. But I think the second one is, like, pretty good.
I love it.
For an 80s movie,
Yeah.
especially the first half of the movie. The second half kind of falls apart. I feel like they
That's
run-
the only part I saw.
Once
I
they
feel
get
like
into their-
yeah, she's in their territory. I
Yeah.
feel like they kind of ran out of ideas in the latter half of the movie. But the first half is kind of like high production, pretty creepy. I like it. So it's for free. It's available for free on
Yeah,
YouTube.
it's the Paramount Vault. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Paramount
Paramount
uploaded
Vault.
a ton of
That was
movies,
right.
which
So
is great. That's awesome they did that.
Yeah, so check that out too on YouTube. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. At least watch the first 10 minutes. That's entertaining.
Okay.
Yeah,
Give yourself a Hollywood Halloween spook. and watch the first 10 minutes.
I can definitely back you up on Texas Chainsaw Massacre too. And you were saying you just watched the original Texas Chainsaw,
Yeah,
and that was directed by Tobe Hooper,
he did the second one too.
and he did the second one as well.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I didn't
either.
know for sure. So I watched the movie I was going to talk about was I love watching classic horror movies when Halloween comes around.
Yeah.
So I watched Poltergeist last weekend.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Poltergeist.
And that's another Toby. It's Steven Spielberg produced, but Tobe Hooper directed it.
Well, there's the great argument on whether or not Spielberg took over.
Yeah.
And man, some of the shots in that movie are classic Spielberg moves, and it's like
I could
believe it.
definitely see that. I love that. Is
Yeah.
I again like
I watched that as a kid, and that didn't scare me at all. I
Really?
just loved it. I don't
Yeah,
know what
I
it was.
loved it.
I wasn't scared of
That's
it. I
what
liked it.
that's what makes me think Steven Spielberg ghost directed it.
Yeah.
because it's
Yep.
kind of enjoyable
Yep.
in an adventure kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. You said this to me once before, and I agree. I've always said that's one of my. I don't like the genre of horror, honestly. I don't like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I was just telling Derek, I just saw It Follows, and it did nothing for me. I was just like, it's not my genre. But every now and then there's a standout. The Shining. That's in like my top favorite movies ever. I love that movie. So there are whatever. And I've always considered Poltergeist to be up there too. I legitimately love Poltergeist. But Derek brought this up to me, and it's a good point. That movie's almost kind of like a strange discovery movie.
Oh, yeah,
more
definitely.
than it's horror.
similar
you
to
know?
the Goonies is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe not in the same vein as that, but it's got that same thing that a lot of Spielberg movies have. That sense of discovery. It's kind of like wide-eyed kind of
I can
like
see that.
what
It's
are
like-
we stumbling into?
It's like an adventure into this haunted house.
yeah,
And how the
yeah,
portal works
Yeah.
and all the
Yeah, I
experts
guess,
that
I
they
guess
have
sort of.
in
I
with
guess
their
sort of in the
equipment.
Goonies in the same way that it's like you got to do this to do this. So you got to, I
It
don't
just
know.
definitely has a Spielberg feel to it.
But-
I mean,
Yeah,
despite having Tobe Hooper's name as the
Spielberg,
director.
Spielberg.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
But
Good.
but yeah, there's always been that debate on if he did
Maybe
or not.
Toby's alter ego, known as Steven Spielberg,
Could be.
stole his
never know.
ideas, stole
Could
his
be.
shots.
But anyway, but I've always loved that movie.
Yeah.
That's been up there for me too. Have you ever seen the second one?
Oh yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Spawning sequels. I think that definitely deserved a sequel, but that's when they start getting bad.
Have you heard about the Poltergeist Curse?
Yeah,
What's the curse?
Like
what was that again?
actresses.
I
like
have.
several people who
Started
worked on that
dying, yeah.
movie started dying in like mysterious circumstances.
Really?
Yeah.
And then in the sequels too, I think the actresses or actors started.
to the point where people started saying like the only thing these people have in common is they all worked on Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Huh.
Don't make any more Poltergeist movies.
Well,
Well,
what
they
about the
did.
remake? Did
Yeah.
anyone die?
Oh,
I don't know. I
oh.
didn't see the new one.
Yeah, that reminds me because the next thing I was going to say was on the second one. I've talked about this with Kevin before because you're very familiar with that movie.
They named the
there's-
entity, and it's like
There's a villainous old guy in the second movie,
Yeah, yeah.
and he died mid-production. So that's why in that movie it's so half-assed. In the end, it's like, yeah, you don't see him anymore, but here's like, ooh, it's like a creature-y version of him. It's like, if I recall correctly, it's been a long time since I've seen it. But what I was going to say is what is kind of neat about the sequel. I don't like the sequel, but what's neat about it is they actually got H.R. Giger to design.
Oh, really?
And like at one point, I think you see a tequila worm or something that's like possessed, or there's all kinds of weird shit in the movie. That was all he designed. Almost every creature effect in that movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of worth seeing for that, but that's about all I could say. And Craig T. Nelson, obviously.
obviously.
Hey, this is
Coach yourself.
movies but not horror. Wednesday, I think it's Wednesday, is the day of the Back to the Future 2 thing.
No, that was yesterday.
No, it wasn't.
It was today.
No, it wasn't.
No.
But
It's actually like a month ago, but whatever.
fuck.
Bah.
Is it in theaters anywhere? I heard that some people will start putting that in theaters.
I don't know.
On that
I
day,
thought I
but-
heard that too, but now that it's close, I don't know anything.
I
October 20th?
would love to do that on the.
It was in
Reed,
theaters
it's
21st
at
ago.
Regal, at Edwards, at AMC.
It is?
Yeah.
On that day?
Yeah, but it's only like 5 p.m., 4:30. There's like one showing.
Really?
Yeah, at each place. They're only showing it once at all these places.
There's a box set coming out that day.
Oh wait,
Blu-ray
that's
box
morning.
set.
Yep, it's all just
And it's just the second
5
one.
o'clock or 4:30 for like. All
Is it
these
the second
places.
one or the first one?
The second one.
Oh.
Showtimes for Back to the Future. I think it's Back to the Future too.
I would assume.
I kind of want to see that. They have put the original Back to the Future in theaters a bunch of times. But it's rare they do that for the sequels.
Yeah,
so
but
I'd be curious to see that on the big screen.
yeah, that would
Kinda
be.
neat.
That'd be pretty neat. I don't know.
And then whenever it's 200 years from 18 whatever, they should play 3.
They should.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I was going to say about Back to the Future?
Shit.
Mondo showed they're doing a vinyl box set of the complete soundtracks of all 3 movies.
Really?
Oh, wow.
And it's in the like radioactive plutonium case, and you open it up and all the records are in there.
That's sick.
They've re-released the first soundtrack a billion times, but 2 and 3 have never gotten complete soundtracks. And I've said that to a few people, and some people kind of feel like, I don't know if I really need the full soundtrack to 3 or whatever. But man,
Come on, ZZ
the
Top.
third movie has ZZ Top. The
Yeah.
third movie is all old Western shit. Dude, I want that. I totally want that.
Yeah. I love
anyway.
that third
I want
movie.
that.
I honestly like that movie.
I like 'em
do
all.
not like
I
that movie
do.
at all.
I like it, I don't
it
want
in
it.
the sense of this is a corny Western movie,
Yeah.
but I love corny Western
It
movies.
doesn't
Dog
it
Tandem.
doesn't stand on its own whatsoever,
No.
but I love it as part of the whole thing. It is an excellent the movie is a de-stress from the complication of 2, and I think altogether they go really well. But there would never be a day that I just want to sit down and watch Back to the Future 3.
I
That
love
would
it
never
for
happen.
the end where Flea shows up again.
Yeah.
That's my
Flea
favorite
does
part.
return very well.
Yeah, Flea should be in more movies.
Do you think he'll show up in Force Awakens?
I hope so.
I hope
Californication?
Which internet group is going to get Flea to star in their video that goes live on Wednesday? That's going to be like just like the anniversary because it's like the Back to the Future Day. Who's going to get Flea?
Oh,
Fuck that. Don't go to the theater. Watch our video instead. Is going to be a good one. New Mega64 video coming out on Wednesday.
Yeah, why are you guys stressing about Back to the Future? You should just watch this Mega64 video.
Watch Mega64. And speaking
Yeah.
of Mega64 events, we do have game days coming up this November.